So I went in, I said, give me a pack of gum, this Gatorade, issue of Us Weekly, Witchblade 121.
They put it in the black plastic bag.
Yeah.
I need some of this, I need a fingernail clipper, I need some lip balm, I need a gum, and I need a darkness.
Basically, Top Cow gets a bad rap.
This episode of iFanboys brought to you by GoDaddy.com and Netflix.com.
Welcome to another episode of iFanboy, the comic book discussion show from the website iFanboy.com. I'm Ron from iFanboy, and I'm joined by
Josh from iFanboy.
And Connor from iFanboy.
Thank you.
And New York.
Today we're talking about Top Cow.
Top Cow Comics.
Which is something people might find surprising, and actually there's a reason why we're talking about Top Cow Comics. It's a company normally we've dismissed, I would say.
It's a studio that publishes under Image Comics.
Right, and we've dismissed the books, historically speaking.
Pretty much wholesale.
And just to tell you how this happened, we go to conventions, we see people at the conventions, and the publisher of Top Cow, Phil,
great guy. If you ever seen him at cons, he's very cool.
He came up to us and said, "Why don't you guys ever talk about Top Cow books?" And we said, "Well, we don't ever normally read them."
I think we stammered a little. This is after he said, "Oh, I like your guys' show. I listen to you at the gym." Da da da. And we're just like, "Oh."
There's a lot of like pulling up the lapel and
Scuffle.
Take the glasses off, clean them up.
But we were honest. We're not really big fans of the books.
And so he challenged us to read this new stuff. He said we have a whole new direction. It's not like you'd think. Top Cow's reputation it's changed. So he sent us a bunch of books to read, and so we told him we'd give him an honest read and talk about him on the show.
Now, it's important to note that despite us not really being into it, there are a lot of people who are.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it probably helps to kind of give for those of you who aren't familiar.
It's a taste thing, that's all.
Yeah, it's a taste thing. But part of some of you who might not read them, just kind of give a little primer on what Top Cow is. Top Cow was the studio that was founded by Mark Silvestri, and he's one of the Image founders. So when Image Comics started, Mark Silvestri, Todd McFarlane, Rob Liefeld, Eric Larson, Jim Valentino, Jim Lee. Mm-hmm. They all had their own little studios. Jim Lee with Wildstorm, Rob Liefeld with Extreme, yada yada.
And it's interesting because I don't think of it as an Image company because it seems to be sort of on its own.
Well, it's funny because at one point in the 90s, they actually broke away and were their own publisher, and then they came back to the Image fold.
It's weird because if you go to the imagecomics.com, you're not going to find these books.
Well, what's also interesting if you look at the comics themselves, they don't have the Image banner above them.
But it shows up near the barcode at some point.
Yeah.
But like even at conventions, like they have their own
booth.
Right, they have their own booth. It's separate.
So Mark Silvestri founded the studio, and those when Image launched, each creator had their own book or their own title. That's what they built off of. So Mark Silvestri's book that he launched was Cyberforce. I don't know if you remember that. It was a team. It was a very X-Men-esque team, but like with kind of cybernetics, and there was a guy Stryker with multiple arms, and the girl.
Was that spelled with a Y? It was spelled with a Y, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, S-T-R-Y.
Yeah.
And
I don't know how I knew that.
Yeah, and Ripclaw, who was the Wolverine-esque guy, and stuff like that. So I actually bought Cyberforce, and I liked it.
I bought all the books.
I like Silvestri's art a lot, by the way. I read Silvestri back with Wolverine and the X-Men days and stuff like that. I really liked them. And so did Cyberforce for a few years, and then it was how Top Cow differs from the other companies. McFarlane's always done Spawn. Larson's always done Savage Dragon. But early on, Silvestri and Top Cow took an approach of being open to doing different things, and that led to two of their biggest titles that have actually eclipsed the popularity of Cyberforce, Witchblade and The Darkness.
Mm-hmm. Darkness, for example, co-created by Garth Ennis.
Yeah. And The Darkness was actually the last one. Witchblade was in the late 90s or so. Mm-hmm. Witchblade featured a female character, a cop, Sarah Pizzini, who gets this ancient bracelet that when it's used, it forms this whole, it takes over her body, and it's the Witchblade, and it's a weapon. It's a weapon thing.
It was a TV show.
They did do it with Yancy Butler.
Yeah, I remember.
How do I know this stuff? And
she was Man and Machine.
The Darkness, which is co-created by Garth Ennis, was the idea of this hitman gets the power of the darkness, and it takes over his body and makes him into a costume, and he gets these little goblins that run around and help him, and kind of weird mystical kind of things. During this time period, while Witchblade, Darkness, and other titles were being popularity, Top Cow became a very strong breeding ground for artists. Mm-hmm. Name a lot of artists that have been out there that have seen success. David Finch. The late Michael Turner. Mike Choi currently came out of Top Cow.
J. Michael Straczynski came out of Top Cow.
Yeah, with Rising Stars. Well, he didn't come. I mean, he went to Top Gun.
It was his first comic book work that was a big deal, and then he went from that and worked at Marvel. So.
Yeah. So a lot of artists have come through Top Cow. Top Cow also every now and then does deals with Marvel where they do their studio does the art for books, so they do variant covers and things like that. So very prolific when it comes to art. A lot of focus on art in the 90s. Style, which probably made the books suffer a little, and that's why we didn't really like them very much, because there are a lot of big boob shots.
Well, that was more of it. I mean,
at
a certain point, Top Cow had a reputation as being the place to go for cheesecake comics, and there's certainly an audience for that, and that's fine. It just wasn't something we were into, and that's why because Witchblade, her costume covers some parts of her body, not other parts.
Not all.
It kind of makes her naked.
Yeah,
a little bit, or just but reasonably so.
Really, depending on who's drawing it.
Yeah.
And some of these covers we got are kind of
provocative,
not things you'd read on the subway type of things.
Yeah.
But
we'll get to that.
But so that's the reputation they garnered in the '90s, and it's really stuck to them. They haven't been able to shake it, and they haven't tried necessarily to shake it because that's still their fan base, their core fan base is still from that time period.
Yeah. And so, but then in the early 2000s, again, trying new different things, they invited Mark Miller over to do some stuff, and that's where the book Wanted came from.
Huge hit for them.
Yeah.
It turned it into the movie from this last year.
We did a show on Wanted.
Yes. Yeah. Art by J.G. Jones. Not what you would think of as a Top Cow book necessarily. So they're willing to do different kinds of things, and that I think led to a lot of success for them, as did video game adaptations of Witchblade and Darkness and probably others. There was a fairly long run. I think it was 25 or so episodes of a Witchblade TV show that ran on TNT.
Yep.
There've been lots of properties and licensing that came out of this stuff, which I think, I'm guessing, enabled them to carry on, even when their comics are not the highest selling things out there.
Right. And they've done other stuff, like you mentioned the JMS stuff, and they've had other creators. Mark Waid did Hunter Killer there with Mark Silvestri. That was
our own Paul Dini.
Paul Dini
does Madame Mirage.
Madame Mirage, but he's done other titles there as well. I believe Jingle Bell's there now.
I believe it is. Yes.
Yeah. So there have been other little kind of stories that have been going through, but as time goes on, they go back to Witchblade and Darkness as kind of their main.
Well, that's the sort of Superman, Batman type of characters in the books. And so now when we take a break, we'll come back. We're going to talk about the new Witchblade and Darkness and what we thought of these books. Thanks to Netflix for sponsoring this episode of iFanboy. With Netflix, you can rent over 90,000 titles online, including lots of Blu-ray titles, with free shipping both ways to your home. They now have over 40 shipping centers, so almost all deliveries happen within one business day. And Netflix plans start from $4.99, and as a new member, you can get a no-risk 2-week free trial membership if you check out www.netflix.com/iFanboy, and remember to type in that www and using the code.
Fast forward to a couple, within recent time at a convention when Phil laid down his challenge, sent us a stack of books.
He was persistent, and I give him that credit.
Yeah, we give him that credit. Yeah, so
and friendly.
Cool. Good on you. Sent us a stack of books, and we all collectively read them. And we started with both Witchblade and the Darkness have recently taken a brand new direction, somewhat of a reboot, relaunch.
Basically, they brought in different kinds of creators to work on the books. They brought in Ron Mars, who is known for ruining Hal. I mean, he created Kyle Rayner. Now, he's actually a long-time comic book writer veteran. He worked at DC for a very long time. Yep. He's done other stuff outside of there too. I think he did a samurai story at some. I don't remember where. I don't remember what it is. But he's a good writer. He's a really good guy at developing worlds. He's been around a long time. He knows the way things work. And then Phil Hester to take over the Darkness.
He's known as an artist.
Yep.
He's done everything. He did a book
he's
called...
known as...
He did art on Green Arrow.
But he's definitely... He's written a bunch of things. He wrote a book called The Coffin for Oni, which is really excellent. It's very good. He's doing another book called Golly for Image.
So they got him on the Darkness.
And they kind of put a stake in the ground and said, okay, these are kind of, new directions, new eras type thing. So let's start with Witchblade.
We started with Firstborn, which is not on the table, which was a miniseries that was Witchblade and Darkness together. And then out of that miniseries came these two new directions.
And it was also a starting point for anybody. If you didn't know what the Darkness was, what the Witchblade was, or what the other thing is, the light.
It's totally great for new readers like us.
Yeah. Great place to jump on.
So Firstborn is in a trade form, and it was a miniseries which led to the Witchblade series, the Darkness series. I really liked all of them. All three of them.
The week that I read these, I was like, those are the most fun comics that I read because I had them all ready to go and I could go one to the other. Yeah. And it was a new thing for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I've never read this stuff, so I didn't really know what it was, and I don't think I gave the concepts enough credit previously.
Yeah.
So
I really liked, and we're gonna talk about them individually. I thought Firstborn was good. It was a great place to start. I liked Witchblade a little more than The Darkness. I don't really know why, from a story standpoint. I found myself really, we read issues 116 through 122 of Witchblade. At least I did. I don't know if you
they're currently on 124.5.
Yeah, so we're gonna play some catch up, and that was the one that gave me the most momentum. Where I was like, onto the next one, onto the next one.
Well, I read them all. I would just fly through them.
Basically, it was Sarah Bassini is a cop, and she had the Witchblade, as we talked about. But in Firstborn, at some point, the Witchblade split in two.
Yep.
She has half of it, and then the other half of it is with this other girl whose name I can't think
The
of right this.
Danny.
Danny. And Danny is actually the daughter of Sarah's boss, the police captain.
And now Sarah's been put into a special cases unit in the police, which gives a little bit of the CSI.
Right, but Sarah's also had a baby. Yeah. So she's got a whole...
She was impregnated by the
darkness.
But
neither of them knew it.
But by Jackie.
Not the guy, it was the demon that was, I mean...
We'll get to the darkness in a second.
And I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of a cop story.
Yeah.
It's very much, it's in New York City, and it feels like New York City.
Yeah. It does, yeah.
And it is a New York City detective. The attitude is right. One of the later stories takes place in a Jewish Orthodox neighborhood in Brooklyn, and I was like, wow, that's really cool.
I think Ron Mars wrote the shit out of it. I think it was really
he really did, and it's not being half-assed. And while I do think the covers tend to, especially some of the special covers, tend to go back to some of the things that you tend to think about. This one's particularly bad. The things that you tend to think about.
But those are the special, like, the normal
variants.
Covers, the painted covers.
The
art
from
cover.
Stepan Sajic, I believe,
is painted, and it's not. I mean, there are elements of cheesecakiness in it, but it's not too bad.
Normally, I hate. These are the kind of this is like the Ariel Olivetti, like that sort of art style that I hate, and it didn't bother me as much.
It's like painted photorealistic almost.
Yeah.
The thing that's really impressive about it are the backgrounds and how much stuff is in the backgrounds. If you look at the buildings and everything behind it, I don't know how painted or how digital it is, but it's not. It's amazing.
You know, it works because it's this sort of religious tone that goes through Witchblade, and it's kind of like the art is also kind of like that.
You're right. Yeah.
One of the things I noticed is that at one point there's like a love scene. And it wasn't overly gratuitous or anything, but it was two characters and they had sex.
Right.
Yeah. And how's that any different than a movie you've ever watched? Really,
it wasn't really.
You don't really see it in comics that often. And I wonder if that has something to do with their reputation.
That was actually one point that I had with it. There are cursing. There's cursing in these comics, not gratuitously, but enough. Like it seemed. This reminded me of either an R-rated movie or R-rated kind of action, kind of thriller movie type thing, or like a nighttime drama kind of show in that serious kind of subject matter. Their realistic dialogue and language use. Yes, the Witchblade is mystical and goes back to ancient times, but I like that. It was grounded in realism, but with a little bit of fantasy, enough to make it really engaging for me at least.
Right.
I liked so Sarah's a cop. She's got the baby. The other half of the Witchblade and Danny, she's dating her partner, and it's a secret. There are these.
But
he's Irish, she's Italian.
But at the same time, she's dating him. He's a good guy. He's going to take care of the family, but it's not his kid.
Yep.
You can tell where they're going is that she secretly finds herself drawn to the darkness.
Yeah.
Who is, in his book, off doing his own thing, but it's still a presence here because he's the father of the baby.
Now, that's a good way to get to the darkness is that it's a good balance between Witchblade, Sarah, a cop, kind of working for good. The darkness is a force that was given to a mob enforcer named Jackie Estacado. And what happens is that you get this whole light dark kind of play going on where they're and there's something the Angelus, which I'm still a little hazy.
It's like the opposite of the darkness.
Is the Angelus.
And I like the Witchblade is the thing that keeps them in line.
The Witchblade's the middle.
Right.
But it's cool to see the interplay between the two of them, and their powers are somewhat similar, but not. So yeah.
Well, right before we go on to that, I think my favorite issue out of all these was issue 120, and basically it's Sarah and Danny, and they go out and they talk together. And one of the things I was really impressed about is in a book from a company and a title that is sort of known for, on the surface, people might say it's almost sexist. This was a conversation between two women, and to me it felt very unforced, very real, and very respectful of the gender. But I'm being serious. Like they let them be full, fleshed out people and not sex objects.
Well, it goes to show what good writing can do for a story. And to go back to the Darkness, I knew the whole storyline of it being a mob hitman and that sort of thing, but this new direction of having him, in South America.
Well, in the Firstborn story, he flees because he's got this power in him.
We must flee.
he runs very fast, and he ends up in South America where he's trying to rule over this country, but not in a dictatorial hard iron fist way, but kind of like a fair way,
positive way. But then he's also building up a drug trade,
right?
Which is
he's still a mobster.
Yeah,
but he's also been manipulated by his henchmen, and he can't. He makes a woman. I forgot why.
He can't, because when he's the Darkness, he can't, because basically the Darkness is passed down through generations. So if he impregnates a woman, if he procreates, he dies instantly.
Oh, right,
so he can't actually truly make love to a woman. So what he does is he uses the Darkness matter to create a woman that he can have his way with.
It's jerking off.
Yeah. Anyway, wow.
We're talking about these books. If you read these books, I can say that.
So a lot over the 6 issues, a lot of crap goes down. The Darkness gets separated from him, and then it forms its own kind of demon type thing, and then it leads to him basically going off on one of those, road trip adventure ones.
And the art towards the end, is really good.
Yeah, really good. Yeah.
Who is this?
Jorge Lucas.
Yeah, this was a great. It's not at all. It's sort of like a Jean Paul Leon style.
Yeah.
Very
really
shadow heavy. And just very realistic, and it was not what I was expecting at all, and it was really.
I thought you would like the Darkness the most out of these. I don't know why. For some reason, I thought you'd like the Darkness because you're dark.
I really like them both.
Yeah.
The only thing about the Darkness with me is that it's a difficult balance because he's a bad guy, but he's a good guy, and I think that it's very hard to do that believably.
Yeah.
And to keep him a bad guy, but to also make you
root for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's times where it was a little at odds. I think.
Witchblade I think better because we said Ron Mars's voice is so strong, and his feel for New York is so strong.
Really good.
But,
definitely.
They're both enjoyable books.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So we're gonna take a break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about another line of books that Top Cow launched.
Think you're smarter than the rest? Prove it and you could win big. If SmartSpace from GoDaddy.com has changed the way you use the internet, the way you blog, the way you do business, or the way you live your life, create a blog or video story that shows how. You might just win $25,000 in cash prizes and free SmartSpace for life. So head over to GoDaddy.com/SSContest and enter now. Don't have SmartSpace? See what it's all about and save an additional 15% through April 15, 2009. Use promo code SPACE15 to check it out at GoDaddy.com.
Turns out we found Firstborn, which isn't exactly a miniseries. It's more of an event.
Well, it was a miniseries.
Well, there was a mini-
It's a miniseries, but it's mixed up with some of the regular
But
issues.
the trade, it's all in order.
Yeah,
so.
it reads very nicely. There's a very nice who's who of artists and people working on this.
Yeah, Rick Leonardi work.
Yeah.
That was just oohing over.
So the big thing Top Cow's been doing is pilot season, Ron.
Well, yeah. I'd lead this thing. It's going in the spirit of them trying new and different things. Right. They started doing something which I really like the concept behind, which was they commissioned a bunch of creators to start to do the first issue of a possible new series, and they did, like you mentioned, pilot season, kind of like the TV show pilot season type thing. They published the first issue, and then they asked people to come online and vote for the ones that they liked the most, and 2 would get the green lit to be published.
Right.
I thought it was a great idea when it happened. I bought a couple of titles when they came out, actually. It just bummed me out because the titles I voted for didn't go through. But that's part of it.
And you're done.
That's part of and I'm done. But I had the opportunity to read the rest of them. They've done this twice already. I remember the first go around. Jason Aaron did a Ripclaw series.
Yeah.
I forget some of the other creators that were involved.
Joe Casey won it.
Yeah.
And apparently his title is still forthcoming.
Yeah.
At some point.
In the pilot season in 2008 that just passed by, you had people like Jonathan Hickman doing the core. Jay Ferber did Urban Myths. Josh Falkov did Alibi. I can't pronounce that.
It's okay. And Matt Hawkins with Lady Pendragon,
Yep.
which apparently Matt Hawkins works for Top Cow, and apparently he's been doing this title off and on for years and years.
The whole history's known.
And so now what was really cool is that so we had Lady Pendragon, we had the core, Urban Myths, Twilight Guardian, Genius, and Alibi. None of these were like one another.
No, totally different.
No. I want you to know that I agree with you.
Yeah. The core is like a science fiction-y book. Yeah. How would you describe Alibi?
Spies.
Yeah,
Spy
How
thriller.
would you describe Genius?
Urban crime.
Yeah.
Urban mixed with
warfare.
and Alexander the Great.
Lady Pendragon is along the lines of
Lord of the Rings.
Kind of mystic, fantasy type thing.
Avalon.
Urban myths is sort of modern day myths in the real world.
Proofy almost.
And Twilight Guardian, which
It's
is
a scaled down kick-ass.
Yeah.
yeah.
So a lot of different books. What did you guys think of them?
I liked the scope a lot. I didn't read one of them that I thought was bad. I didn't really get into Lady Pendragon because I think that a lot had come before it, and I know that this was meant to be a start over. But it's like one of those things. If you're into Arthur and Avalon and that kind of stuff, it's probably right up your alley.
King Arthur, Excalibur.
Yeah, but that wasn't so much my thing. Urban Myths was lighthearted and fun, a little bit like it was like Hellboy a little bit.
Yeah. Hellboy proof. Like,
Yeah, basically the main character, whose name I don't remember, is the son of Medusa, the Greek god, and so he lives in sort of a normal world, but he's a private investigator. But all of the tropes of Greek myths are real.
Yeah.
And so
And he's got the same
Jack
power.
Medusa.
He used to wear a
Yeah.
mask.
Jack Medusa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good fun story.
And a very cool kind of animated, almost kind of art by Jorge Molina.
Good part about this one is that it kind of played on its own very well. A lot of these left you off a little more,
Yeah.
and being that there will not be more issues of most of them,
Yeah.
that was kind of good to read.
I hope they do. I mean, I know it's you
A
want
lot
to
of
stick to it.
a lot of them deserve it.
Yeah.
I'll give
Yeah.
you that.
Yeah.
If not here, then maybe somewhere else. They're good stuff going on.
Yeah.
Genius was one that I didn't really know what it was, and it kind of surprised me. Basically, it's a story of you take like South Central Los Angeles, and the residents of a certain area decided that they're going to take over, and there's this one girl who's at the center of them, and she's in fact the genius.
She's described as a modern day Alexander the Great.
Yeah, she's
tactical genius.
She's Osmandius.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, it's what it is, and so she starts a war. There's so much story that can be told after that, and
Yeah.
it's just the very beginning. It's a little taste of it.
Yeah. Also a great look to it, to the art and everything.
They all look
Yeah.
different. They all feel
Yeah.
different.
Afua Richardson on this one.
Jonathan Hickman's the core.
The core, which reminded me a lot of Dune.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys
I've
picked
never
up that
read
Dune.
Dune,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this is what happens with
Yeah.
me with these guys. If there's ever anything that I haven't covered, it's just like, you don't know that? All
But
the time.
Kenneth Rocafort, great art on this, I thought.
He's the artist on Madame Mirage, I
Yeah.
believe.
And has the typical Jonathan Hickman charts and graphs and that sort of thing.
Dialogue
Circles.
pages.
Very dense, but what you do is you get this idea of this team being put together and the science fiction.
I loved this. This
yeah,
was
the core was
fantastic.
great. Yeah, I was really bummed that this didn't. I did go and vote for it.
Right, I could see why.
Yeah.
Twilight Guardian was, to me, a really interesting.
Troy Hickman.
It was as Josh said, a scaled down kick-ass. It was a girl who decides she's going to fight crime in her suburban neighborhood, and it really involves her just her walking around and
Because
observing.
there doesn't seem to be much crime, and she's a little paranoid and weird. I just said the other one's like Osmandius. This one's a little like a little girl Rorschach who hasn't gone crazy yet.
Yeah.
I disagree. I think she's nuts, and I think that was really interesting about it.
Well, not completely crazy.
I thought it was a really interesting character study, a short story piece about a girl who's clearly off her rocker.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, wow, that was really good. I don't know if I'd read a whole series on it, but I thought the one shot of it was really
I
fascinating.
believe the voters would have disagreed with you.
Yeah, well, that would be the first time.
Alibi, I was going to say, upon looking at Alibi, it reminded me a lot of The Leading Man.
Same artist.
Same artist.
Yeah, I was gonna, it's gorgeous. I love his
Jeremy
art
Holland's
style's
art is
fantastic.
really, really good.
It really works in this sort of spy style. Basically, this is twin spies who alibi each other because one is, but no one knows they're twins. So one is, seen somewhere else while his brother is doing hits for the, whoever.
Yeah.
And that was fun action series. So we had action, you had crime, you had big sci-fi, all kinds of different genres. So Ron, who were the winners of Pilot Season?
Well, actually, much to my dismay, not that they were bad, I didn't like them, but Twilight Guardian and Genius were the two winners.
So we're gonna see those.
So we're going to see forthcoming series featuring them. Both main characters, women, which is kind of cool. I would have liked to seen the core Alibi get picked, but
So if you had to pick two
Or Urban
winners, who
Myths.
would you have chosen?
I
What
probably-
did you vote for? Did you vote for two?
I voted for the core and Urban Myths. But after reading Alibi again, I really liked it. So,
I would have gone with the core and Genius.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one of my choice as well.
yeah,
Not that I liked all of them. I enjoyed them all, but
yeah. So, but
those are
it's,
the ones I wanted to see more of.
but it's cool. So hopefully, they go on to be long-running series and successful for their creators and that sort of thing. But what's really interesting about Top Cow more in recent dates is that you might have, if you go to iFanboy.com or go to any comic book news website, you might be aware of the price increases that are going on. Kerfuffle that's going on. $3.99. Comics historically, most recently for the past 5 to 7 years, have been about $2.99 for a 22-page story. Looks like Marvel and DC are making the move to $3.99.
At least Marvel hasn't. DC hasn't yet.
Yeah, DC hasn't yet.
Some of the Final Crisis issues.
Yeah,
But
they were thicker.
not on.
Neither here nor there.
Not different story.
But so it looks like $3.99 is in our sites. But Top Cow is taking a stand.
Yeah.
2009 will not see a price increase past $2.99 for their regular issues and stuff. They've guaranteed that.
So honestly, you can't beat that. I mean, the fact that if you're worried, if you're price conscious and you want to give a series a new shot, and you don't want to spend $3.99 for an issue, here are a whole bunch of options that you might find one that you like. So.
You got to give Filip credit. He really believes in his product, and he pushed it, and he did a good job, and we all found stuff we liked.
I mean,
right.
quite honestly, we're not going to sit here and be like, this was a good comic, and we don't think that.
Yeah, no. Hopefully you guys know that by now.
And we totally weaseled out of the show.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. We totally wouldn't have done the show. Like that's.
I had some feelings about this cover.
Yeah.
I'll be honest. There were some of them. There were some covers I'm not going to read on the train.
Yeah.
I would think twice about buying this in the store.
Right.
This one, it's got a lot of labia going on. Anyway, but that's a small part of it. And the Witchblade stuff, the Ron Mars stuff, is totally worth it. There wasn't a single one of those pilot season books where I was like, oh, that's awful. I'm not reading that.
They were all really cool. So it looks like it is indeed a new era for Top Cow. And so if you want to find out more about them, you go on the web. You can find them. Just Google Top Cow and you can find them. I forget their exact website URL. It's topcow.com.
It'll be right here.
Topcow.com.
Topcow.com. Go to topcow.com. Check it out. If you have any questions, if you disagree with us on Witchblade or on The Darkness or on any of the pilot season books, you can email us at contact@ifanboy.com.
That's not the only reason you could email us, though. You could also give us a shout at the voicemail line and give us a question, a comment, or anything. If you want to get on the podcast or something like that, you can call 888-FANBOYS, which is 326-2697. Remember, keep it short. Leave us your name. Tell us where you are.
And you can go check out the discussion on this show and all the Witchblade and Darkness stuff that you can think of at iFanboy.com. There'll be a discussion there and all of our great content, as well as revision3.com/iFanboy, where our forums are. We'll have another discussion about the show and more Topcast stuff.
I hope they do another pilot season this year. How do you think this reflects what comic readers want?
I think it reflects on what comic writers want to make.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's about getting out of the
typical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And for that, it was very good.
What do we do for the cold open?
So easy to make a boob joke.
We like labias. You'd think this would be up our alley.
He's not even making acknowledge.
This doesn't even have a title on it. It's just labia.
It just
look at, she's spreading her butt out like a porn star.
Yeah.
Not that I've watched that.